Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I do unboxings here, mostly lifestyle subscription boxes, but also some stationery, books, beauty, jewelry, travel, home decor, even a dash of Disney. So if you enjoy unboxings, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notification bell. And as always, if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being here and welcome back. Today I have a long overdue Once Upon a Book Club review to share with you. This is actually the January adult selection. In case you're not familiar with Once Upon a Book Club, they are one of the older subscriptions out there in terms of book subscriptions. They always have a book and they give you a hint of what the upcoming book is. If you want to reach out to them via email, they will usually tell you the actual title. They have a young adult subscription as well as an adult subscription. The box is $34.99 plus $10 in shipping. If you're interested in subscribing, you can save 10% using the code mauinoel10. As always, I will leave all of that information for you in the description box below. But with their regular monthly subscription as well as their special edition boxes and holiday boxes, what they do is to try to bring the pages to life is as you read along, you'll come to a page that has a little sticky note that says open your gift, and then there's a wrapped gift with the corresponding page number, and it's always items that are inspired by that little excerpt of the novel. So it's really fun. Sometimes it's a little bit of a liberal interpretation, inspiration. Sometimes it really does feel like it's lifted from the pages of the book, but it's always really fun. So I really enjoyed this book. I actually thought I had skipped the January box, but because they actually ship towards the end of the month, this is a book I wasn't expecting to receive. I was kind of thinking of pausing on this, but they have since updated their VIP program, which has made it a little bit more possible for me to work this subscription into my budget. Now I just have to catch up on all of my reading. But the book that was selected for January, let me just pull that out of here, is called Yellow Wife. I always want to say The Yellow Wife, but it's just Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson. And I have to say it was phenomenal. I actually read it in a single day. I couldn't put it down. It was one of those books that I wound up staying up really late to finish. They did give us a nice hardcover edition, which I definitely appreciate. It wasn't really light reading, even though I did wind up reading it by the pool, but like I said, it just really kept me captivated. I also really appreciate that they did a little book plate and they got a book plate signed by the author, so I will be adding that into the book now that I am finished with it. And then they always include this nice, what they call the book club kit, which is essentially just a little like pamphlet, a little brochure to kind of guide you through. Often it has some like reading questions. This time they had a little interview with the author Sadika Johnson, and then like I said, they do have discussion questions and like read along dates if you do want to treat this like a book club. I honestly don't usually engage that much. I do follow the group over on Facebook just for updates, and sometimes I watch some of the unboxings if it's a box that I haven't gotten, because sometimes you can get boxes if they're not sold out in their store, which is nice. And then on the back they actually had a recipe this time, which I always think is fun in any kind of subscription box. So this is again bringing the pages of the book to life, because there is definitely a mutton stew that appears, although I don't know that I would actually be brave enough to cook sheep or mutton. So they always have a little bookmark, and then they always have a little quote card, which is something they're kind of famous for. So you can always use this as your like monthly decor to have out to sort of inspire you. And this one just says, as long as there was breath, there was hope. And that is again from this novel. So this is definitely a heartbreaking novel. It's kind of a historical fiction, which is one of my favorite genres. And I did really enjoy reading it, even though the subjects were pretty heavy. So let me just go ahead and read a little bit about the book to you, and then I will be doing spoilers because I will be reading the excerpts that are associated with the gifts. I was happy to see that we had 4 different gifts this time, and none of them are what we call paper gifts, where it's like a letter that was written in the book basically typed on another piece of paper. So they are kind of moving away from that and really listening to the feedback of their subscribers, which I definitely appreciate. So it says, born on a plantation in Charles City, Virginia, Phoebe Dolores Brown has lived a sheltered life. Shielded by her mother's position as the estate's medicine woman and cherished by the master's sister, she is set apart from the others on the plantation, belonging to neither world. She'd been promised freedom on her 18th birthday, but instead of the idyllic life she imagined with her true love, Essex Henry, Phoebe is forced to leave the only home she has ever known. She unexpectedly finds herself thrust into the bowels of slavery at the infamous Devil's Half Acre, a jail in Richmond, Virginia, where the enslaved are broken, tortured, and sold every day. There, Phoebe is exposed not to just her jailer's cruelty, but also to his contradictions. To survive, Phoebe will have to outwit him, even if it means making the ultimate sacrifice. So it's really the story of a slave who, because of her light-colored skin, because of her mixed heritage, finds herself sort of caught between two communities and having to make really difficult decisions and having to see the oppression and the violence that's committed against slaves, but also having to preserve her own life and that of her family, especially her children. So like I said, it was very heartbreaking, and there were definitely some twists and turns. Like, I would tell myself to get to the end of a certain chapter and turn off the lights and head to bed, and then something unexpected would happen. I was like, well, now I have to read and find out what happened. So it was a really good read, something that she sort of was inspired by one of the author's trips to a similar jail. And I think she did a really great job of incorporating all the research she did and really bringing these characters and making them ones that you wanted to read about, even the difficult characters, even the sort of villains that were in there. So let me go ahead and just start to read some of the passages, and we'll take a look at what the gifts are that we received. I thought it was a pretty good batch of gifts. It wasn't like my favorite box from Once Upon a Book Club, and it wasn't like my least favorite by any means. I think just the fact that we didn't get any paper gifts made it a good box for me. So this is what it looks like when you get to a page. It's just a little sticky note. If it's kind of towards the bottom of the page, it's like a little half sticky note. But let me see. It says, "My lids blinked open." So this was written in the first person by Phoebe Dolores Brown. "My lids blinked open to see Essex holding up 2 leather strips. Hanging from each was a wooden carving of half of a heart. This one for you. He took one of the necklaces and tied it around my neck. Just a little something to hold us over till I can marry you properly and get us away from here." I touched the heart to my lips. Then he gave me the other necklace and I tied it around his neck. I love it. I nuzzled my nose against his chin stubble until I felt him blush. Thank you kindly. So it's kind of fun. So I read this book without the gifts with me, but I could kind of guess what the gifts were based on the passage. So it came in this beautiful little package. And again, I love that they designed the packages to go along with the book. So beautiful, definitely went with the cover of the book and everything. I do wish that they wouldn't necessarily put the page number printed on there, because some of these boxes are just so beautiful. I might want to use them for something else, or if it is a gift that I want to give to someone else, it is kind of odd to have like the page number on there. So I kind of wish the page numbers were like a little more subtle, or like as a sticky note themselves. So inside, this is really cute. It says wood heart necklace, and it has that same quote, "My lids blink open to see Essex holding up 2 leather strips. Hanging from each was a wooden carving of half of a heart." So they kind of outlined the heart there with that little card on top. And indeed it is, and then there's like a little velvet there. And then indeed it is on 2 leather cords. Now, I don't usually wear corded jewelry, but this is a space where I felt like they did a good job of interpreting the passage and making it sort of authentic. It does have a nice silver adjustable clasp, but what I really love is that they did a dark wood and the shape of the heart. So it just kind of looks like 2 teardrops, or like 2 parts of like a yin and yang. So I thought that was really nice, because you could definitely wear just the one necklace and it doesn't look like one of those like BFF like sets, you know, from grade school where you saw the jagged center of the heart. So it's very subtle, and I do think it would be like kind of a cool thing to share with someone that you love, or a best friend, or what have you. I might personally put it on a different chain just so it looked a little bit more grown up, but again, I thought they did a good job of interpreting that, and that was probably one of my favorite gifts this go around. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. So that was on page 93. So it's also really fun just to tell yourself like, oh, okay, I'll just read till the next gift. And it definitely inspires you, especially in like books, not like this one, but in other books where they maybe have like a little slow start or like a little slow section. Having those gifts to open up definitely kind of keeps you inspired. So here is an example you can see at the bottom where it's just like a little half sticky note. So let me find that. So it says, I could tell he was fooling with me by the way his dimples spread across his cheeks. If I guessed accurately and Elsie was 10 years my senior, then he had to be 20 years more than me. Not as old as Master Jacob, but definitely older than Mama. Just Phoebe is fine. Well, Phoebe, I brought you something. He took the few steps toward me and held out his hand. Inside there was a thimble, silver, shiny, and quite honestly the most beautiful thing anyone had ever given me. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, he said, and then turned out the door. So of course we got a thimble. Now I don't do any sewing, so it's not necessarily a functional thing for me. I did think this little like burlap bag was super duper cute, but again, I kind of wish it didn't have the page numbers on it because I could definitely reuse this to like gift some jewelry to someone, but it's kind of odd to have it say page 93. So we just got this simple silver thimble. Some of the finish on mine is actually kind of tarnished here along the edge, and I didn't know if that was like intentional, but I think the one in the story is actually supposed to be real silver, and this is obviously not, but it is kind of simple. It's not like ornate or anything, but definitely something I guess you could use if you use thimbles. But it's one of those things where I probably won't hold on to it or re-gift it to anyone because it seems like kind of an odd thing to gift to someone just randomly. But let me know if you use thimbles, but I guess if you were actually sewing a lot, it would definitely be something important to sort of save your fingers from those random pricks. And then the next one that we had was on page 125. So this was, I mean, it's a good gift in value, but I honestly was not excited about the interpretation of it. So she actually was educated by her former slave owner, her former master's sister before she died, which is something she had to hide for most of the time because slaves weren't supposed to be able to read or teach others how to read. So it says, I sat on the edge of the bed trying my best to take in my new situation. When I had to leave for my shed, something caught the corner of my eye, a dusty leather-bound book on the nightstand near the far wall. I had not been near a book since I arrived at the jail. I listened for footsteps. My heartbeat increased as I turned the book over in my hand. The cover read Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. When I opened it, I had to press the leaves down a few times at the front and then the back for it to fully spring to life. Mama's voice nagged in my head, cautioning me on the dangers of reading. I returned the book, but as I moved through the day in the shed, I wondered what words I would find on those grubby old pages. So I knew that we would be receiving a book, and I was kind of hoping for like a leather-bound or faux leather-bound journal that was actually empty, and that would have been a fine interpretation to me. But we actually got a copy of Oliver Twist. So this was a wrapped gift, so beautiful paper. I tried to kind of keep it wrapped up so you guys could see. This is a special edition that they had created just for, or printed just for this Once Upon a Book box, and I have to say it's because it's like a hardcover and the image that they have on the front, it just feels like a really feels like part of a series of like young adult literature, even though I realize this is not necessarily a young adult book. But because it's this like hardcover, which I appreciate that it's hardcover, but the one in the book was supposed to be leather bound, so like paperback would have been fine. But just because it's this kind of edition, it looks like it's part of a bigger series, and I just wasn't fond of like the picture on the front. I think it's great. It's like a bonus book, you know, and it's got this like very like modern typeface, like sans serif typeface in it. But I just felt like this was kind of a weird edition, and I would have preferred to have something that kind of looked more leather bound, maybe like had that sort of like wear to it, or just a journal that was blank versus having a copy of Oliver Twist. I think it's great that they had it printed just for this book, but it doesn't feel like that special to me, and this isn't like the kind of edition that I would purchase for myself, just because again it feels like something that you would be putting in a teen's like room or something, or on a shelf with a bunch of other books from the same edition that kind of have the same look to them. So I don't exactly know what to do with that either. I'll probably just take it to a used bookstore, but good idea. Like, and normally I'm all for a bonus book, but I would have rather had something that I would use a little bit more. Then we have one more gift. So I'm definitely of the thought that we should have fewer gifts of higher quality. And sometimes I totally get why they make decisions where it's just really inspired by the book. But this was one where I felt like it could have really been like a literal, you know, leather bound Oliver Twist edition that didn't have a picture on the front. I think maybe that's what like is kind of making me feel like it's very different than what she was actually receiving. It should have looked more like an old worn Bible than, you know, something with an illustration on the front to add interest. So Page 256 is the last gift, and that is towards the end. I think the book itself was only like 260 something pages. So at the bottom it says, so we get the reason for the name of the book. It says, "Where the yellow wife with the medicine." My stomach quieted down. He had not betrayed our connection. Elsie placed the laundered shirts on the table and then headed out of the shed. Instead of carrying my whole medicine bag to Essex, I thought it best to hide a few things in my pockets. The brown jar, a balm I'd made with black elder, peppermint, and ginger for when the girls came down with fever, sliced onion, and some bread. I knew his feet were still swollen, so I tucked a piece of white willow bark in my pocket and made my way. So it's her long-lost love has wound up coming to this jail for a variety of reasons. I won't ruin it for you too much, but she has learned all of this sort of natural medicine from her mother before she passed, and she's using it to help those that are on the plantation. So we got this little box, which is, she plays the piano, so that's where that tie-in is. And then we got not the medicinal salve that she was talking about, which this is where it makes sense that they wouldn't actually include that concoction. But we got, it says number 18, Miss Phoebe's peppermint lavender salt rub. So we got a little salt rub, and it just says, you know, it's just a salt rub that you can use in the bath. But I will say it's a nice sized jar, which is pretty cool. But mine seems to be pretty dried out. Like you can hear it. Like when I heard it in the box, I was really worried just because the last Once Upon a Bookclub box I had actually had sand in it that had spilled all over the box. And so when I just heard this, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be another sand situation. None of the sand fell out, but there was supposed to be some moisture in there, and it's just because I don't think this was ever sealed, just because it seems like it's small batch. So honestly, mine just looks like salt in there, and I don't see any moisture. I see some like herbs and stuff in there, and it definitely smells good. I could probably add some like oil to it just to make it work, but I think that's a little issue just because, especially if you are purchasing this box not as part of the subscription but from their shop, know that this particular product might actually have kind of a shelf life to it, so it might arrive to you in the same condition as mine did. But it does say that it has eucalyptus, mentha, versus leaf, it says rose petal. Oh, it says it has that oil and rose petal, and then it tells us some other stuff. So I don't think it was supposed to be that dry when I saw that oil was one of the like main ingredients. I feel like it should have a little bit more to it, and it seems like there's maybe like a clump in the center. Honestly, it's actually pretty dry in there all the way around, but I don't mind that. I think this was actually a nice attempt at including like a bath self-care product in this box, and I think that this sort of loose translation of the brown jar that's used a lot in this book was actually a really smart one and well done. But just the execution of it, or at least by the time I got around to getting to open it, it was a little bit dried out. Or if it's meant to be dry and you're just supposed to use the water from your shower to scrub, then maybe I'm just misinterpreting it and it was supposed to be this dry to begin with, but I don't think it was. So let me know if you did get this box, if yours came rattling like this as well, but also let me know what your favorite gift was in this particular box. I think that the salt rub as well as the book had great potential. It's just the particular versions that we got weren't like to my liking. I think the heart necklace is lovely just because it is sort of a subtle heart, and then the thimble is just kind of like a throwaway for me. That was sort of like the paper gift, and honestly, like it could have been a plastic thimble even instead of a little metal one. But again, I do think that this was worth it just for the book itself, because it's not one that I probably would have picked up on my own, but I really did enjoy reading it. As tough of a subject as it is, as tough of a period it is to read about. And of course, I still enjoy the gifts even if they aren't ones that I necessarily will incorporate into my daily life. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Definitely check out Once Upon a Book Club if you are trying to get yourself back into the habit of reading. It's a really good way of keeping yourself or whoever you're gifting the box to engaged. I'm really looking forward to the Bridgerton box that I have pre-ordered, and I haven't actually watched the series, so let me know in the comments below if you think that I should watch it ahead of time or wait and read the books first. It won't be for a while though, because the box actually won't be arriving until the summertime, but I think I can probably wait if I've waited this long. Hopefully I see you all very, very soon in my next unboxing.